Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gruler. I am a criminal defense attorney here at the R&R Law Group in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and I, over the course of many years, have represented thousands of good people facing criminal charges. And throughout our time in practice, we have seen a lot of problems with our justice system. I'm talking about misconduct involving the police. We have prosecutors behaving poorly. We've got judges not particularly interested in a little thing called a justice. And it all starts with the politicians, the people at the top, the ones who write the rules and pass the laws that they expect you and me to follow, but sometimes have a little bit of difficulty doing so themselves. That's why we started this show called Watching the Watchers, so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. And we're grateful that you are here and with us today because we've got a lot to get into. We're going to be diving in this episode into a lot. We're going to be talking about President Biden was out on CNN yesterday hanging out with Anderson Cooper. They had a town hall, and we've got several clips from Joe Biden. He's talking about things like China might be starting World War III here soon. But we're going to talk about this because he gave a very interesting answer on the Taiwan question. We're going to break that down. He also talked about the border, said that he's sort of been down to the border. And he also talked about gas prices, kind of mentioning that these things might be here to stay for a while. But there are some interesting things that happened last night because as Joe Biden was speaking, literally, a lot of people in the White House were communicating with the press, kind of backtracking on everything that Joe Biden was saying. So he'd say something, and then a lot of people in the media would get an immediate email from the White House saying, whoop, didn't quite mean that. And so pretty interesting. We'll go through that. The big story, of course, is Alec Baldwin shot and killed a woman last night on the set of a movie that is being recorded called Rust out of New Mexico. And this is very interesting because Alec Baldwin has been somebody who's been very anti-gun, somebody who's been very almost, psychotically aggressive with this one single issue. And he is now potentially facing criminal charges. And so I know a lot of people are slam dunking on this guy today, kind of going, oh, well, isn't that interesting? But we're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and take a look at the actual legal side of the case. Yes, we'll dunk on him because that's what everybody's doing. But the other thing that's really important are the criminal statutes. We're actually going to take a look at the New Mexico homicide statutes and see where this might fall, if anywhere. If this is it an accident? Can you just shoot and kill somebody and just go, whoops? It's an accident. I guess we can just move on with that. Not usually. And so we'll look through the actual statutes. Murder, different permutations of homicide, whether this might be a felony murder. Could this be something that is manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter? Or could this be something that was justifiable homicide, an excusable homicide? New Mexico has a number of different statutes. We'll go through them. We'll see if any of these things apply to Alec Baldwin, who shot and killed a woman. So we'll go through that story. Horrific tragedy, obviously, right? Anytime something like this happens, it's easy to get political and jump into one side of the conversation. But man, somebody's dead. Alec Baldwin's life is, in deep disarray. So not good. And then in our last segment, we are going to blast the hell out of the Loudon County Public School. A superintendent, guy by the name of Scott Ziegler, who is, I think, pretty safe to say a bona fide liar at this point in time. We've been following this story for some period of time. There was a student, young gal, 14 years old, in Loudon County who got raped by a student, and the Loudon County Public School Board just covered up the whole thing, like absolutely just covered the whole thing up, said that they didn't know anything about it. Turns out the superintendent, guy by the name of Scott Ziegler, absolutely knew what happened because he sent an email to the school board and said, oh, a student got raped in our bathroom. Fast forward a month after the email was sent, he goes out in front of all of the parents in the school and just flat out lies about it. And so that email got leaked today. We're going to take a look at that. Ridiculous story. Parents should be outraged about it. And I'm sure that they are. If you want to be a part of the show, the place where we're recording the show, the place where we're having our great conversations and taking some good questions are over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we have this form where you can, if you're a supporter over there, you can use the form, ask questions, and we go through them on the show. There's a lot of people chatting away over there. We've got Germs is in the house, Paula MK. We've got playing hooky. We have that one Florida man, Feisty Lady is here along with Look 2G, 3 girlies, B Spec is here, full house on this lovely Friday. So shout out to all my friends. Thanks for being here and for getting those fingers ready on the keyboards with all the great questions that we're about to get to. So also, if you're looking for the clips, if you never can stay for the full show, I know it's about an hour and a half, but if you're looking for just the individual segments that are very useful to share with friends and family, which we appreciate, you can find those over at the Clips channel here at Watching the Watchers. No, I'm sorry, that's where Locals is. This is at Robert Gruller ESQ Clips, and we'll link to that everywhere that we link things. So thank you for your support there as well. All right, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the news of the day, shall we? President Biden came out in front of the public for the first time in a long time and gave a town hall presentation with his friend Anderson Cooper over at CNN. Now, Joe Biden, a lot of people have been critical, including me, about his sort of capacity to be president. Kind of a grueling job, something that requires a lot of energy and effort, movement, doing a lot of things. We've been critical of his calendar and specifically pointed out here on the show that oftentimes his day is totally empty. He wakes up at about 10 a.m., gets the presidential brief, and that's it. Jen Psaki does the press briefing. Not much else there. But Joe Biden was out finally in front of people taking questions. He's given a bunch of speeches at the White House, 7 minutes here, 9 minutes here, and then just kind of turns around, makes a beeline for the door, doesn't answer any questions. And we have a couple important things going on right now, like the coronavirus, like a global concerns about the Taiwan-China problem. We have record individuals coming across the U.S. southern border, 200,000 August, September. Numbers looking like they're going to also be going up as the cooler months come by. We're taking a look at inflation, supply chain catastrophes around the country. We've got school boards having problems being investigated by the Department of Justice. A lot of issues in this country. And so people want to talk to the president about it. He's the president. He just got elected. It's his first year. Should be the honeymoon period still. Where is the guy? Well, he was out with Anderson Cooper yesterday. They were having a conversation about a lot of those different things. And Joe Biden came out and started talking about gas prices. And so we're going to let's give him a fair shake. Let's see what he has to say. We've got some substantive clips here. I think I got 1minute, 30 seconds of the president. Let's see what he has to say about gas prices. And, we'll see if we have anything to say about it as well. This is a live stream. All right, here is the president talking about gas prices last night.
Anyway, so there.
Oops, pressed the wrong button there.
But I must tell you, I don't have a near-term answer. There's two things I could do. I could go in the petroleum reserve and take out and probably reduce the price of gas maybe 18 cents or so a gallon. It's still going to be above $3. And one of the things that I refused to have happen, because I didn't want anybody, I made a commitment, if you pass the stuff I'm talking about, not one single penny in tax would go against anybody making less than $400,000. And so if you notice, these highway bills are not paid for by gas tax. They're paid for by direct expenditures in other areas. So the average person doesn't have to pay more. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. There's a possibility to be able to bring it down. Depends on a little bit on Saudi Arabia and a few other things that are in the offing.
Okay, so I guess we're back to being dependent on foreign oil or whatever. So it depends on Saudi Arabia. It doesn't have anything to do with any of the limitations on drilling or pipelines or any of the cancellation of any oil development here in the United States. Has nothing to do with that. It's about Saudi Arabia. Got to get them on the phone. Need them to start producing some more oil. Pump that stuff up and out of there. But he says it's going to be hard. Obviously has no answer to that at all. Just kind of pivots, talks about the new Build Back Better plan and about how that's going to be funded. And it's not going to come off of a gas tax because he doesn't want any Americans making less than $400,000 to be taxed at all, which is very interesting because inflation is sort of that pseudo tax that exists on the middle class and the poor, which is quite rampant right now, Joe Biden. All right, so that's his answer, right? Nothing really substantive there. But what was interesting about a lot of this is that literally in real time, the White House was sort of pushing back on anything that Joe Biden said. So I noticed this was something that was being passed around Twitter. If you look here, we have Chad Gilmartin says the White House staff was busy during last night's town hall, fact-checking their boss, Biden, in real time. Staff issued clarifications on a range of Biden's remarks, including on the supply chain crisis, to raising taxes, and even Taiwan. And so what you can see here is this person, a blue check mark over on Twitter, posted something an hour sort of into the town hall and said President Biden said he would absolutely, in quotes, consider deploying the National Guard to help with the supply chain issues. Oh, interesting. National Guard? Well, they're being used everywhere else. Why not also on supply chain issues? He said he added that the administration is hoping to get enough truckers to help with the gridlock, but is open to using the National Guard to get the jobs done. And so you start to say, well, that's interesting. Well, we talked about, Governor Hochul from New York saying that after they fired all of the unvaccinated medical care workers that, have been serving and essential workers for a long period of time, after they all go away and nobody's able to continue to provide medical treatment to anybody, what was Kathy Hochul going to do? Well, she was just going to bring in the National Guard. Oh, so that was just going to solve that, replace, nurses and doctors and medical providers who've been around for a long period of time. Just bring in the National Guard. Easy replacement, just a little switcheroo. One thing just substitutes in for the other, and you're good to go. Been hearing that from other governors around the country, that when the police are all fired, when the firefighters are all fired, when everybody gets thrown out of their jobs, we're just going to bring the military in. They're just going to solve this problem for us. And so Joe Biden, allegedly yesterday, according to Yamiche Al-Sindor, was making that same type of argument in front of CNN. But then after he said that, she got a follow-up email and got a follow-up tweet just to clarify things. Says, about an hour later, says a White House official emails me on the president's statement about using the National Guard. Says, quote, from a White House official, quote, requesting the use of the National Guard at the state level is under the purview of governors, and we are not actively pursuing the use of the National Guard on a federal level. Okay, so Joe Biden's open to it, but they're not actively pursuing it. So Joe Biden, gung-ho, yeah, we're going to solve the problem. And the White House comes back, up, not so fast over there. We're not actively pursuing any of that stuff. So don't get ahead of yourself. And this was kind of the same thing that went on throughout the remainder of the night, as we're going to see. We're going to see in the next segment, they're talking about China, right? This is a very, very important issue. I know on this channel, we talk about criminal justice and mostly domestic policy, but we also talk a lot about, political science and political organization and how the world structures itself, because a lot of that does trickle down back home, right? A lot of what we see here that I complain about regularly, I know stuff that upsets many of you, are areas where the government just decides that your civil liberties don't matter anymore, and we're just going to go in and just, look at your bank account, every transaction. We're going to take a look at all your biometric data. We're going to start being able to spy into all of your private communications. That all takes place on the back of stuff that typically arises from international issues, right? The Patriot Act, for example, was something that just eviscerated everybody's privacy. That was on the back of international terrorism. Now it's sort of transmuting itself into domestic terrorism. And so this stuff that percolates overseas comes here relatively quickly. So we're talking about the China-Taiwan issue. We know that, earlier this week, the U.S. government has really been focusing on other issues, like whether the Taliban is going to be elevating certain women to powers and prestigious positions there in their government. That didn't happen, but China is launching new technology, new missiles, new low Earth orbit tactical capabilities that the U.S. national intelligence community just happens to say is surprising to them, kind of caught them by surprise. So Joe Biden gets a question about this, the China-Taiwan thing, and you remember how precarious this situation is. The Chinese are not happy with any hints that the U.S. is going to be facilitating and helping Taiwan. And so it's always been that the United States has always been in this sort of position of neutrality, where we're just going to kind of, let things remain. Joe Biden came out and gave a different answer last night. Here he is.
Let me bring in Glenn Niblo, a student at Loyola University, originally from Connecticut. He's a Republican. Glenn, welcome.
Where in Connecticut are you from?
Greenwich. China just tested a hypersonic missile. What will you do to keep up with them militarily, and can you vow to protect Taiwan?
Yes and yes.
Whoa.
We are
Whoa.
militarily, China, Russia, and the rest of the world knows we have the most powerful military in the history of the world. Don't worry about whether they're going to be more powerful. What you do have to worry about is whether or not they're going to engage in activities that will put them in a position where they may make a serious mistake. And so I have spoken and spent more time with Xi Jinping than any other world leader has. That's why you hear people saying Biden wants to start a new Cold War with China. I don't want a Cold War with China. I just want to make China understand that we are not going to step back. We are not going to change any of our views.
So are you saying that the United States would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked?
Yes, we have a commitment to do that.
All right.
Whoa. Did you see Anderson Cooper? He's like, whoa. Let me just get that again from you there, Joe. You're telling me that the United States is official policy? We're going to come to the aid of Taiwan if China starts to encroach on them? Joe, yes, we are. We sure as hell are. We've got a commitment to them, which, is not really the wrong answer. I don't disagree with him. I think that if China does something to Taiwan, yeah, I mean, maybe that's something that might be useful for the United States government to do. Joe Biden did, though, say that we have the most powerful military in the world. Didn't see much of that in Afghanistan under his leadership. Maybe under somebody else, it'd be a much, more capable military. But under this commander in chief, we have some questions about that. I think China does, too, which is why they keep just needling him. Oh, yeah, just test that hypersonic missile right now. No problem. So that's Joe Biden. Now, we have a commitment to Taiwan is what he said. You just heard him there. And he doubled down on that puppy. Anderson Cooper said, you sure? Is that your final answer there, Joe? Then he said, it sure as hell is there, Andy. And so the White House immediately, of course, said, hold on a minute. Hold on, China. Hold on. Don't go ape bananas right now. So Alex Ward posted this on Twitter, said, the White House spokesperson says, quote, the president was not announcing any change in our policy. There is no change in our policy. He says, fine, but this isn't the first time the White House has had to walk back Biden's comments committing the U.S. to Taiwan's defense. China does not like it when you talk like that. And we know that Joe Biden doesn't like to upset China. So, yeah, okay, so we've got another little overzealous sell from the president. It's what he does. Let's see what else we have. So that's on China. Hopefully that doesn't start World War III when they start to decide that they don't like that answer. Our final clip from the president, before we take a look at Jen Psaki cleaning some of this up, when he talks about going to the border. I'm an Arizona boy, born and raised here, been at the border most of my life. I don't live at the border. I live in Phoenix, but I've been down to the border many times, crossed the border many times. And it's always just something that I've just expected was kind of there, right? It's part of life, and people just kind of know what the border's like and what different parts of Arizona look like as a consequence of being in such close proximity to the border. I know what it's like. Many people who live in the southern border states know what it's like. And it's always interesting to me to think that other people in the country are so far removed from it that it's like a different country. And I mean that like literally, right? And there are different parts of this country that I've never been to that it's like a foreign country. And that's one of the most beautiful things about America is it's big, it's diverse, and we have a lot of different moving parts. We've got areas where, you've got basically every different type of terrain in here, whether it's deserts here in Arizona or mountainous regions, in the Rockies or the Appalachians. And it's just a beautiful country for that reason. But it's always curious to me when one of our elected leaders, somebody who's in charge of all of the different areas of the country, really is not familiar with a key component of it, in particular, the border. Joe Biden's been in the Senate for however many years, been in government for close to 40 years. And there's some pretty interesting questions, concerns about whether he's actually been to the southern border, which we're about to see. So if somebody asks him about this and say, that's pretty bad under your administration. It wasn't so great under Trump, but it wasn't even nearly as bad as what we're looking at here. Are you going to go down there? Are you going to go visit the border at all, Joe? Because it's, it could use some attention. And your appointed czar, Kamala Harris, she's not doing such a good job of this. So Anderson asked the president about that last night.
Do you have plans to visit the southern border?
I've been there before, and I haven't. I mean, I know it well. I guess I should go down, but the But the whole point of it is I haven't had a whole hell of a lot of time to get down. I've been spending time going around looking at the $900 billion worth of damage done by hurricanes and floods and weather and traveling around the world. But I plan on, now my wife Jill has been down. She's been on both sides of the river. She's seen the circumstances there. She's looked into those places. You notice you're not seeing a lot of pictures of kids lying on top of one another with looks like tarps on top of them. We've been able to deal that. We've been able to significantly increase funding through the HHS, Health and Human Services, to provide shelter for these kids and people. But there's much more to be done, and I realize I think it's the thing that concerns me the most about being able to get control of it.
Come on.
Because I got to, number one, get enough funding to provide for immediate determination of whether or not someone that is in fact legitimately claiming a right to stay in the country because of legitimate fears.
Come on.
And it's purely for economic reasons to get in line, but not get in the country. So what we're doing is bringing a lot of folks are coming in and they're doing ankle bracelets instead of people being sent back, depending on whether or not their claim appears to be legitimate.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this poor guy. He just is so checked out. He's just gone. What did he just say there? He said, you're not seeing, like those scenes of people stacked with blankets all over them. Did he just miss what happened with the Haitians down in Texas? For like a week, there were people building a city crossing the Rio. And it was on the cover of every newspaper. It was a catastrophe. The whole country, the whole world was watching that. We were seeing kids being dragged across. On this show, we played an image of children that were left in bushes, like a toddler and a newborn just hanging out in the bushes over there. And the numbers have been higher than they've ever been. So he's saying, maybe he's not seeing the pictures, but the rest of the country is. It is objectively worse, dramatically worse, right? We've talked about, you just look at the numbers. According to his own Border Patrol agency, they're very bad. They're dramatically worse than they were in 2020 and 19 and many of the years before that, and it's not getting better. So he just spirals off and talks about Lord knows what, not addressing the problem. Does talk about more funding, though. Says we need more funding because we need immediate determination of whether or not they're here for a legitimate purpose. And if you just listen to that sentence, it's like, what are you talking about? So more funding. So you just want a Border Patrol agent to take a look at a migrant who is coming across and just be able to make a determination right then and there, whether they should be a citizen or at least a permanent resident, or just grant them green cards, or what are you talking about? Then he says that right now everybody's getting put on ankle bracelets and being released, and that is also not happening. That's not accurate, right? People are giving the notice to appear, say, come back here. Homeland Security is not, in the Border Patrol agencies, they're not wrapping ankle bracelets around every single one of the Haitian migrants. It's not happening. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Says, I've been to the border. I know the border well. Maybe I should go down there, though. And by the way, Jill's been there. Well, she's not an elected official. Is she in charge of the border? Are you putting her in charge of DHS or any of these agencies? My gosh, folks. And look, something's just going around. He's just stringing together old thoughts about trying to say something about the border. Oh, border, just say something about the border. It's not working. All right. And he just goes on and on and on. Now, here's Jen Psaki, who came out today. She had to clean this up because everybody knows what he said is not accurate at all. There's no truth to anything there. So here she is at the White House.
We've seen from companies, large companies, private sector companies that have implemented these requirements across the board.
Okay, following up on something else the president said last night. Why did President Biden say he has been to the border?
Well, Peter, as you may have seen, there's been reporting that he did drive through the border when he was on the campaign trail in 2008, and he is certainly familiar with the fact, and it stuck with him, with the fact that in El Paso, the border goes right through the center of town. But what the most important thing everyone should know and understand is that the president has worked on these issues throughout his entire career and is well-versed in every aspect of our immigration system, including the border. That includes when he was vice president, and he went to Mexico and Central America 10 times to address border issues and talk about what we can do to reduce the number of migrants who are coming to the border. He worked in a bipartisan manner with senators like Ted Kennedy, Harry Reid, John McCain, and others to push for comprehensive immigration reform. He does not need a visit to the border to know what a mess was left by the last administration. That's his view.
Does that count as a visit? He said, I've been there.
Oh, so Jen Psaki, out there. He doesn't need to go down to the border to clean up the mess that prior administration left down there. With their stinking wall that would have stopped a bunch of people from coming across and, prevented all the problems that we're seeing today. So she had her talking points ready and she just read through them quite nicely. But hilarious, right? First of all, Ducey. First of all, by the way, he drove by the border in 2008 during a campaign. So he's been there. And and that's enough, okay? He's traveled many times down to Latin America. He studied the border. He worked with Harry Reid, 37 years ago. So don't you tell us what to do. And by the way, he doesn't need to go down there anyways because it's all Trump's fault. All right, well done there, Jen. And it is, it's hilarious. So the Washington Post took a look at this. They did a little bit of a fact check on this, and they said, yeah, he just kind of drove by the border. They said, well, we did our own LexisNexis database search. We could not find the record of a visit to the border. There were many Senate hearings in which the border situation was discussed. Biden went to those, but that's not the same as an actual visit. Also found clips of Biden traveling to Mexico to discuss the border situation, such as a 2001 delegation headed by somebody else, but that did not include a visit to the border either. That was the first time a committee set up a foreign delegation. And then they say after digging some more, we discovered that Biden briefly drove past the border while on a campaign swing in 2008. On October 17th, there was a rally in New Mexico. Press officer told the fact checker that the plane landed at the El Paso airport. Then the motorcade took nearly a 1-hour drive to the suburb of Las Cruces. The drive took Biden along a route that for a few minutes hugs the border of the U.S. and Mexico. For most of us, it was unfamiliar territory, Wade said, who recalled that some of the reporters joked about crossing the border during the event. And so, folks, this is literally what it looks like. So he lands at the El Paso airport, right? And then they take this route on the I-10, and guess what that does? Drives them right near the border, near El Paso, and then they just go up to Las Cruces. And guess and that's your president. That's our president. That's the United States president. Somebody who's been in elected office for 275 years. And the Washington Post can't even find record that he's ever been down there from LexisNexis or anything. And he's in charge of running the whole thing. So just outstanding, isn't it? The leadership that we have in this country, taking the bull by the horns, making sure that they're just really, thoroughly educated on the issues. And they've got solutions that are coming down for us. All right, let's see what you have to say about this one over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. See if there's any thoughts on the Biden town hall backtracking that we all saw last night. Let's see. Vianticus is here, says, do all those corrections mean that if I only watch the interview between Biden and Vanderboy, I'm watching fake news? Well, a lot of corrections. I don't think that Joe Biden really means the things that he's saying. Maybe he's trying to follow the Trump model or something like that, where they say a bunch of stuff and then people sort of backtrack for him. Trump did a lot of that, to be fair, but they said that we were not going to have that, right? We were going to have somebody who's an adult who tells the truth and all that, and that's not accurate. Former LEO says, the only people on this planet that are afraid of Biden are the citizens of the United States of America. I understand that Biden wanted to move funds from the Border Patrol to disassemble the wall that was already paid for and erected. Yes, Biden does put fear in my heart, but for all the wrong reasons. That's from former LEO here. We have Grouchy Old Cat Lady says, let's see what this one. Oh, that's on the Loudon County schools. So we'll have to save that one. And then I've got to get this queued up. 1 second here. All right. So our next one up here is from Major. Says, or you can get rid of the fuel tax and save over 50 cents a gallon plus the 18 that put in near the $2 range. I don't know an American oil business that would invest that could be killed at the whim of a party. Nobody wants that job security. Okay, the welfare people wouldn't be able to sell those food stamps anymore, and if they did, they would have the government know what they were spending it on. That is from Major. Yeah, so I think we're talking about the idea that the IRS is going to be monitoring people's bank accounts. And yeah, they're in addition to the taxes on gas and everything else, they want to monitor every single transaction just to make sure that they can squeeze every ounce of revenue out of their cattle. Shade says, all our incremental plans to use the National Guard, remove police, and usher in the UN eventually, who will be the CCP troops. Everything is in place for a reason. It's not an accident. Ominous comment there. Perry Masonary says, Biden is a China plant. Don't see him changing anytime soon. Won't get to the border soon. I think you can take that one to the bank, Perry Masonary. Geomancy Games is here, says, what bothers me about Biden going to the border is why now? Why not 8 months ago? It's been almost a year since he's been in office. Now he decides to take action. I'm so tired of this two-faced old man saying one thing in the public, not doing anything else until it's politically expedient. Also says subscribe on YouTube. It's from Geomancy Games. Subscribe on YouTube. So you can go check that out. Now, he is, yeah, look, I also recognize clearly now that the going to the border thing is just like it's a cudgel that you can beat the other side with. And the Republicans are doing a good job with this, of beating the Democrats peacefully and politically with that cudgel, because the same thing happened with Kamala Harris. She was supposed to go down there and kind of went down there and then like checked the box. Like, I went down to the border, all right? You know, what are you people complaining about? I did it. Leave me alone. So that's just kind of how it goes. And Joe Biden's going to want to avoid that, because when people go down to the border, then the Republicans are like, yes, got him. See, they did what we told them to do. Who's your master? Schnookum says, so Jill is picking up Kamala's slack at the border. If she is, she's not doing a much better job, because apparently there's like 60,000 additional migrants making their way up right now. But yeah, anybody but Joe, I guess, is his solution. Kincaid says, evening, Rob. I'm glad to see Biden speaking at an average pace and animated. He concerns me deeply. He did look a little better than usual. He seems to be trying to stay mindful with great effort. I noticed he recalled and crystallized memory a lot. If this were a court hearing, I'd say he was being led. There are too many choices and safe spaces. Do you think there should be some consolidation of facts? And if so, how would that be done best? The federal government at present cannot be trusted. Perhaps something new. The new should be cleaned up and regulated. Consider how they are reporting the lack of drivers. This is a great comment, Kincaid. And you know, this is a very interesting comment and a very easy thing for me to tangent off on. I'll try to do it. I'll try to answer this without sort of spiraling off. But there's a lot happening right now in the crypto space, okay? And it sort of answers this question. So your proposal was, how do we sort of get good information? How do we have consolidation of facts? Federal government can't be trusted. Is there anything else new that can clean up the data and give us some good information, right? Consider how they are reporting the lack of drivers. So the reporting's all bad. And I've talked about this a lot here, that our informational supply chains are just totally broken. We can't really trust any of the reporting, right? We don't know how many actual infections there are for particular diseases, or how many actual deaths there are that are attributable to a particular disease, because nobody trusts the numbers, right? Because we see people that are, 300 pounds overweight, 75 years old, they die of it, and they go, oh, well, that's obviously caused by this thing, when the rest of us are saying, well, that kind of doesn't sound right. Maybe there are some other actual underlying causes for that death. And so information is just problematic. And if your informational supply chains are broken or they're compromised, then your decision-making ability that relies on those supply chains is also hampered pretty dramatically. And so how do you really study these issues and make good decisions based on bad data? It's almost impossible to do it. And so there's somebody who I'm a big fan of. His name is Balaji Srinivasan, and he's talked about one project, for example, of trying to gauge and measure inflation, but you would do this in a decentralized version. And it's a really big problem to try to wrap your head around, and they're trying to figure it out. But the way that you do it is through decentralization, and people are checking each other's work, essentially. And so you don't really need regulation. You really don't need a big centralized government or a big centralized agency, because it's all decentralized and everybody keeps checking each other's work. And because everybody is you create a system that incentivizes the checking of each other's work, and you get much better data that way. It's decentralized. all of the perverse incentives that people have in centralized systems to manipulate the data sort of get rooted out to some degree. And so there's a lot of very interesting stuff. It's all happening in the crypto space, but I would poke around there. I think it is a much better solution, and I think it's really where a lot of this is going to be going. We have Major says that I knew that China was developing these weapons for past 5 years. I've been telling people China's a very large threat, and excuse every time I received it was that they don't have the technology or the troops a long time ago. He says they're just a regional power. They're no threat to us. That was all 10 years ago. Just because they have body armor, they don't have a nuclear triad. That was 5 years ago. Well, we have a better Navy. That was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we have more nukes than them. Now they're catching up, in other words. Yeah, very nice. 15 years ago, they don't have the technology. 12 years ago, just a regional power. 10 years ago, they just have body armor. 5 years ago, they don't have nukes. 2 years ago, well, we have more nukes than they do, and the list goes on. They do, and they don't have a carrier now capable of aircraft. Last year, they increased their ballistic nuclear missile silos by 362, all of them capable of multiple warhead launch vehicles. Oh, and by the way, the new silos are closer to Afghanistan, so with the U.S. military finally gone from the region, they finally have buffer states surrounding their country now. Great comment. That's from Major. Yeah, it's that slow chipping away at the enemy, isn't it? Jeremy Matrita says, hey, Rob, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you, Jeremy. Says, have you noticed that Biden is always riffing when he speaks? You could put on a dope rat beat and watch him riff as he busts some dope rhymes. Do you think people know that there is nobody behind the wheel? You know, the engine is running, but there's nobody behind the wheel. What movie is that from? I know that's from a movie. I can't remember. I think some people know, Jeremy. You and I do. A lot of others do, but a lot of people don't. Former LEO says, don't forget about the sand bicycles for the Sub-Sahara. It's a hell of a deal. Only $3.5 million. That's from former LEO. Let's see what else we've got. I'm Not Gas says, should Nadler's dirty diaper change his name to Biden's dirty diaper? Let's see what this one is. Investments Hulk. I think I follow him on Twitter, actually. Let's see if we got anything good here. Oh, yeah, the hands. Yeah, this is the Biden hands thing.
Us at a town hall, I think it was in July,
Why
that
hands?
this was just near-term inflation. The Wall Street Journal recently talked to like 67 financial experts who said that they saw high inflation going all the way or deep into 2022. About that, with just in terms of inflation, because you had told us at a town.
So asking about the hands, right? Why are his hands like this? Okay, if you look up something like, why do dementia patients clench their fists? You'll see a number of results on there. Why they do that? Interesting. Yeah, interesting. But it doesn't, it doesn't reveal anything other than it's an interesting coincidence, isn't it? Thank you for that. I'm Not Gas. Let's see what else here. Oh no, what did I do? Okay, so I got to get back over here. That was from I'm Not Gas. Perfect. All right, couple more on this one. Schnookums says, maybe he's talking about the migrants being flown in secret across the U.S. by plane. Those must be the ones with the ankle bracelets. Yeah, I doubt it. Where are the ankle bracelets? Soul Viking says, oh, and he drove through the border area apparently in 2008. Those memory and behavioral problems of Joe are only second to Chucky's lies about the condition and the border and how it was under Donald Trump. That was from Soul Viking in the house. It's a good comment. Schnookums also says, at least the Yellow Man kept those caught confined to camps in Mexico. As horrid as the conditions might have been, they weren't just dumped deeper into the U.S. And look, at least they were in facilities and things like that, right? The Haitians literally just set up their own town down there because the Border Patrol couldn't get control of the situation. The Enticus Prime says, I think I have to go to the hospital. I'm pretty sure I developed a new medical condition, which I will call the involuntary facepalm syndrome. Well, be careful with that. You're going to get, gotta get that treated. Thunder 7 says, Beijing Biden spends 90% of his time in his bunker basement in Delaware. Even though he's POTUS, I checked the ratings from his town hall, only 1.2 million tuned in, while 2.8 million tuned into Tucker. As Trump always says, Joe is shot. I don't even know what that man is. Nobody cares what Biden has to say. Approval rating is tanked, low 30s. Soon it's going to be 0. Most unpopular president of all time. He did unite everyone, though, to dislike him. I'll give him that. That's from Thunder 7. A few more on this one before we jump into the next segment. We got Look2G says, the clip I found most chilling during the town hall was when Cooper asked Biden about the first responders leaving over the vaccine mandates. Biden's response showed no empathy for these brave people that served during COVID with no vaccines. And then this supposed leader of the free world has the unmitigated gall to call freedom and those who want it as some wrong or harmful. Scarier yet, all the people in our society clapping for the restrictions of our freedoms. Yeah, there was something, I didn't clip that one, but Joe did say something like, freedom, come on, like, what are you talking about your freedom for? And everybody goes, yeah, finally somebody said it. Why do we have freedom anyways? It's just a lot of work to think for ourselves and manage our own lives. Nobody wants that. Kincaid said that it is said that there is no ethics in politics, but damn, Jen, it's a good thing she has fiery red hair. That's from Kincaid. I think that's, there's some people on the show that really appreciate that about her. Jay He says, Biden is a doddering old fool. He is not running the show, has no idea what's going on. I'm tired of Dems always blaming the previous administration. They are unable to take any responsibility for any mishap that may take place. Time to head back down to the basement so he can watch another episode of Matlock. I remember when Matlock would come on. I was a kid. I'd be like, oh, dang it. What else is on? I'm Not Gas says, while I love watching Rob try to decipher word soup, please everyone try to read out what you type just once and see if it's intelligible before hitting submit. That's from I'm Not Gas. Thanks, I'm Not Gas. Look, everybody's doing the best they can. I know things get, you're typing fast. I get it. Schnookum says, anyone else find Biden's claim of closeness to Xi just a little ironic considering his and Hunter's interaction? Yeah, I mean, he's pretty proud of that relationship, isn't he? Grouchy old cat lady says, Manchin, this will contribute to inflation. We've already passed the American Rescue Plan. We should just pass the infrastructure he built and, pause for 6 months. Well, right. Well, and he says that the problem here is more funding. We don't have enough money. So maybe they should go print some more, and then that will solve all of our problems. Even though the first round of printing seems like it caused a lot of our problems. All right. Former LEO says, they had a body language analyze Psaki. Very lucky she doesn't climb out from behind a podium and start attacking people. Finger pointing, and she has not been trained to point her finger because it's very confrontational. She has been trained not to point her finger, but not to partially close her hand. That would soften the confrontation. Deep down inside, if she could, she would assault everybody in the press room, especially Ducey. Yeah, Clinton did that. Remember that? Former LEO, he did a lot of that, right? One of these deals. And, yeah, it's tough, right? You don't want to do one of those things because that just makes you look pretty aggressive. We have Major says, there were a lot of topics in this segment. I should have done a better job separating my questions. You're all good, Major. I appreciate your comments, man. Really good. Sometimes I'm going to botch the reading of it. It's my fault. I appreciate it, though. Tremendous says, Biden hasn't had the time to go to the border, yet he's had time to go to Delaware 20 times. And did you hear what his excuse was? Well, the weather. Like hurricanes and things. I know that's what he meant, like, hurricanes. But well, the weather's been pretty bad too. It took down all those Southwest airline flights when it was really cloudy that day where there was no clouds in the sky. We have another one from Georgia Peaches says, could you imagine having dinner with former VP Biden and his son? What, cough, 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 knuckleheads spans a crackhead. That would be the worst dinner. Kincaid says from earlier, great idea, Rob. Who knew chains could set us free? I fear the governments will go for it unless they find an in or Q computing. I love the possibilities, though. Yeah, that's from Kincaid. Yeah. Oh, that's from Kincaid. Yeah, we were talking about some of those interesting ideas. We have Vienticus says, well, when we talk about cleaning up facts and whatnot, remember the grass is always greener on the side, but you know where the fertilizer is on your side. Anytime someone asks me for a right answer to any situation, I always tell them there isn't one. I'm often able to find equal faults in both edges of situations. The best way I can say about making sure the information you get is the best information is to make sure you are educated and that you question everything. That's Vienticus Prime. You kind of sound like a Socrates there, Vienticus, like, kind of just questioning, making people make sure that they dial down in on what their true belief is. I think there's a lot of value in that. Schnookum says, Christine, movie with the killer car? Stephen King? On the movie? That's not the one I'm thinking of. The engine's running, but there's nobody behind the wheel. That one. Yeah, I don't remember what that's from. I want to Google it. Oh, Ace Ventura. It's Ray Finkel. That's what it is. Yeah, Jeremy just gave us the answer. Rob, it's from Ace Ventura. I'm looking for Ray Finkel and a clean pair of shorts. That's from Ace Ventura. I'm looking for Ray Finkel. The shotgun comes through. And a clean pair of shorts. Yeah, it's an amazing movie. That was a formational movie in my childhood, no doubt about it. Donald Trump says, hey, Rob, this is a 30-second clip of Joe Biden rocking out to the song Let's Go Brandon. It's hilarious. It's from Donald Trump. He sent that in. You can't... That can't be real, right? I can't. Greg Marat says, a few months ago, China's education ministry blamed male celebrities, making Chinese men feminine. They started education programs to make Chinese boys less feminine, pretty much the opposite of what we have in Western countries. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I don't know. I think it's illegal to comment on that, but... yeah, we are, I think, Greg, going the opposite direction, and you're seeing it everywhere. Which, it's like, I was thinking about this. I'm reading this book right now called Anti-Fragile, written by Nicholas Nassim Taleb. I've read it before. I wasn't ready the first time. I'm probably going to have to read it about 5 more times. Brilliant book. But he talks a lot about the idea that the future is sort of the past, right? We all think that we're very creative and sophisticated, and we all want to, do the latest, greatest, the newest, the best things, and we're all very, very, human. We're all intelligent, using our brains and all this stuff. Okay, that's all well and good, but kind of the things that are most important really haven't changed all that much, right? Like, it's still hard to find a good chair to sit in. Yeah, you can get one primed to you overnight, and it's going to be a fine chair, and it's going to serve you well, but it's, going to break and go away soon. And so, it's really, we still appreciate a good chair. Or, a lot of people are drinking from plastic and aluminum bottles or whatever. That's all the new stuff. But you go back and you get a really fine, Phoenician glass, and that's really sort of better than anything that we have today, and it's been around for thousands of years. And so sort of the future is the past to some degree. And a lot of what we see in society, these ebbs and flows, whether it's sort of the era of the 60s and, free love and all of that stuff, or whether it's this current era of, 37 pronouns or whatever it is, that those are all just little kind of flare-ups that, come and go. But the long trajectory of society, we're going to have ebbs and flows and ups and downs and weird permutations that pop up and go away. But the long course of history is that most of that stuff just kind of, comes and goes. Now, this is a different era because we're talking about sort of the government adopting this as human rights and civil, sort of a new way of living in society, which is different than some of those other flare-ups, historically speaking, right? China has made their decision. They're going one way. They want, an aggressive male population, strong men, strong military, strong, global power ambitions. They've got strategic plans. The U.S. government is thinking about, white rage or whatever General Milley's complaining about. We've got admirals who, were just nominated to be heroic, historic female who until, 10 years ago were men. So, it's an interesting time that we're living in, no question about it. Jean-Jacques Rousseau says, does Biden think that taking away people's freedoms is what I mean when I said man is born free but lives his life in chains? JJR in the house. Oh my gosh, I've not read him in years. Bumalickit says, if I can only copy and paste my comments from yesterday on another geriatric on the loose. Oh, it's so agonizing to watch President Biden at a town hall. I almost want to call APS, Adult Protective Services, but not because I kind of want to see how he does. Let his Pinocchio nose grow on TV. The White House, clean him up after he is in scrambles. That's from Bumalickit. All right, those were great comments over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thanks for all your support and in participation in this amazing segment. Okay, we're going to move on to the next segment on the show, and this is a big story of the day. Alec Baldwin just shot and killed a woman and shot and injured another man on the set of a movie known as Rust. Filming a Western, story has captured the nation because of who's involved. Alec Baldwin, somebody who has been very aggressive, sort of an anti-gun person. And now a lot of people are kind of rubbing his nose in this. It's not our intention to do that here, but it is something that is worth an investigation. The big question that I have as a criminal defense lawyer, are there any potential criminal charges that might come towards Alec Baldwin as a result of the shooting? I think the answer is yes. A lot of people sometimes might think that if an individual shoots and kills somebody and it was an accident, that's all that happens, that everything just kind of evaporates overnight. Oh, whoops, it's an accident and life goes on. Typically not the case. In this video, we're going to take a quick look at the New Mexico statutes and run through them see if any of the homicides or involuntary or voluntary manslaughter charges might apply to Alec Baldwin. Let's start off with a headline over from the AP. They tell us, they give us some background. They say the killing of the cinematographer was, quote, a tragic accident. This is according to Alec Baldwin. He said this on Friday, that the killing was a tragic accident. Her name was Helena Hutchins. She was the cinematographer on the Western known as Rust, and another person named Joel Souza. They were shot on Thursday out of Santa Fe. Spokesperson for Baldwin said a prop gun with blanks misfired. So a prop gun with blanks. We're going to be looking at this, right? It's technically, the murder or the homicide weapon. A spokesperson for the Santa Fe County Sheriff said detectives were investigating what type of projectile was discharged and how. No immediate charges were filed. Baldwin was performing at the time of the shooting, the sheriff's office said. Unclear how many rounds were fired, and little was known about the weapon. So we're always talking about, every time we're talking about criminal charges, we're sort of considering two different components of criminality: the mens rea, the mental state, and the actus reus. That's the physical action. And so when we're talking about crimes like murder, we're talking about both a murderous mindset, right? Somebody has malice aforethought. They have an intention to go and actually kill somebody or to do something that might cause that person's death. And so we're thinking about that. We're also thinking about the act. What was the act that happened? Was it somebody pulled out a gun knowing it was loaded and actually shot somebody? Was it more like an accident? Was it something that was early in the chain of causation? Somebody started something that caused something else, that caused something else, that caused the death. There's a lot to analyze in that, and we're going to start to unpack some of that. Now, the first question that everybody has, what about Alec Baldwin specifically, right? Is he the prime suspect? Is he a suspect? Somebody is dead, but was there criminality here? Or could we maybe remove Alec Baldwin from the entire equation? Did somebody else do something to the gun that might have caused the gun to go off? And Alec Baldwin was just somebody who was an innocent third party, didn't know better, had no obligation to check it, had no personal responsibility to verify that it was in fact safe. And so we're going to see a lot of finger pointing in this case, and it's important that we break it down a little bit. Here is a picture of a very distraught Alec Baldwin. Obviously, you can imagine, right? And so my personal feelings of Alec Baldwin are he's been a very aggressive person. I don't think he's, generally a very, affable, caring, concerned person, but he did just shoot and kill somebody, and, his life has changed dramatically. Somebody is dead. And so we're, going to have a little empathy for him in this tragedy, but not without proper oversight, accountability, because that's what we do here. So he was sobbing after shooting and killing Helena Hutchins on the upcoming set of the movie. Here is another aerial shot. You can see that the police have shown up and they started to cordon off the whole scene. You see the police tape sort of being scattered around this building. Looks like an old church that was being used in filming. You can see all the camera gear around there, all the different lighting. It looks like right outside the front of that church. And so this is the woman who was shot, Helena Hutchins, 42 years old on the left, shot dead. And it sounds like we're going to see when we get into this that the bullet just kind of went through her and then hit this fellow, Joel Souza, 48 years old, on the clavicle, right near the shoulder somewhere. So, just gruesome. You can see here are Baldwin and Hutchins circled together, all sort of dressed up for the shooting. A lot of people look like they're, in costume. Alec Baldwin has the cowboy hat and the rest of the outfit going on there. This was an image that Hutchins actually uploaded to Instagram just 2 days ago, right? So she was just, they're out there right in the middle of this stuff. And now she is no longer with us. So what happened? We're still waiting for some official documents, right? The police, at some point, the sheriff's office out of New Mexico will have a report that will be publicly available. They'll decide what to do with this, but we're not there yet. So we did get a report from somebody named Roger Friedman over at Showbiz 411. They have an exclusive eyewitness recount of what went down there yesterday. This was posted early this morning. Says that exclusive. It was one bullet that was discharged from the prop gun on the Santa Fe movie Rust, killed the director of photography, wounded the director of the movie. Eyewitness on the set tells this column the bullet went straight through the body of Helena Hutchins and into the clavicle of the film director's Joel Souza. And so that's going to be sort of up in the shoulder area where your collarbone is. We've got very quickly, the set was locked down. Ambulance, helicopters arrived. Hutchins and Souza were sent straight to the hospital. Hutchins died en route in a helicopter. On the ground, Baldwin was shocked but composed, kept asking why he was handed a, quote, hot gun. Our eyewitnesses said Baldwin kept saying, in all my years, I've never been handed a hot gun. Hot gun means a real gun with ammunition, of course. Baldwin, not knowing the fate of the victims, was taken to the hospital immediately, had no idea how badly they were hurt or that Halna was dead. So probably didn't know that when he was on the phone at the time. Rust 1 is a Tier 1 movie, meaning it was being produced under $6 million. They had safety meetings every day, but it was a Tier 1 movie, so probably didn't have more than one prop person. All right, so now we're starting to see who was in possession of this gun. Right? Who was in control of the gun? This is sort of a chain of custody argument, right? If one prop person has a gun and they're totally responsible for it, it's where the police are going to be looking. All right, well, if you had possession of this, how did a live round or something that was dangerous enough to kill another person, how did it get in there? And he's going to say, well, I put it here. And so somebody else had access to this box, if that is the route this goes, right? If it turns out that Alec Baldwin tries to escape some sort of involvement in this, which might be accurate, right? He had no obligation to check it. All he had to do was an actor. He's a Hollywood guy. All he does is he says, oh, is it good to go? It's good to go. And he just uses it, right? If that's his involvement in this, we don't know yet. And I know that there are all sorts of safety precautions and procedures and protocols that have to be followed. And so police are going to be going through all of that right now to see who is responsible for the negligence that took place here. So one prop person, maybe that person is involved in the criminality analysis. We'll have to wait and see. But whatever happened on set, Alec Baldwin didn't intend for this outcome, obviously, right? So that's the mental state. Presumably he didn't intend to shoot somebody. Unless there's maybe some more to the story, which we'll take a look at. Now, Rust is done. Production halted. Lawsuits are not going to be flying all over the place. Movie is done. It's finished. Rust is not going to be coming out, so don't get your hopes up for that movie. Now, some interesting people are pointing out some things. We have Justice Obsessed who put this in the locals chat, and I've been seeing this all over the place, right? That Alec Baldwin, who's not a particularly nice guy, many voicemails of him screaming at, I think, his daughter and stuff, very aggressive, absolutely, hates Republicans, hates conservatives, all this stuff. Well, he posted this back on Twitter in 2017. Said that, I wonder how it must feel to wrongfully kill someone. Video showing on Huntington Beach officer fatally shooting a suspect. So Alec Baldwin posted that, right? And he posted a lot of other stuff like that, sort of saying, why don't you shoot yourself? Why don't you kill them? Or, go act like Cheney, right? Go shoot somebody in the face, all that type of stuff. And so, it's easy to rub his nose in that. Now, here is the 911 call that went out. You're going to hear a very muffled 911 call, but it is also going to be played 3 times back to back. Real short segment, about 13 seconds. Listen in on what this sounded like.
We have a people have been shot accidentally. We have a people have been shot accidentally. We have a people have been shot accidentally.
All right, so somebody had been shot. 1 or 2 women had been shot accidentally is what he said. And he posted this on Twitter earlier today. Says, 2 parts, Alec Baldwin, there are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halna Hutchins, a wife, mother, deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred. And I am in touch with her husband, offering support to him and his family. My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and for all who knew and loved Halna. All right. And the sheriff's department also came out. They posted this yesterday. They said the deputies were dispatched to Bonanza Creek on the set of the movie Rust. 911 caller reported a shooting on the set. Confirms the people who died. The person who shot, they were shot when a prop firearm was discharged by Alec Baldwin, 68 years old, producer, actor. Hutchins transported hospitals, died there, announced there. Mr. Sousa treated and released. No charges have been filed in this regard, but the investigation remains open and active. Witnesses continue to be interviewed by detectives. Here's the rest of the scene. So you can see this is a lot of people were out there. And if they were actually filming while they were while this was shooting, right? There's probably some footage. So there's going to be a lot there, right? You know, he actually may have been recording. They were recording for the movie, in other words, when the shooting took place. So pretty big production. We'll end up seeing kind of how this investigation unfolds. There's going to be a lot of different tentacles that go a number of different areas. We can glean a little bit more about this from the union. There is an organization called the IATSE, and they say that his prop gun had a live round, but the cops say that that has not been determined yet. So Dominic Patton posted this earlier this morning over at Deadline. Law enforcement officials said on Friday they do not know right now whether the gun that Baldwin fatally fired contained a live single round, but a local Los Angeles IATSE agency said that that's not accurate. Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office spokesman Juan Rios said, "We haven't even begun the forensics on that issue yet. This hasn't been determined by us as of yet. We expect more information to come next week." But the IATSE, they wrote this letter to their members. They said, as many of us have already heard, there was an accidental weapons discharge on Rust. A live single round, they say, was accidentally fired on set by the principal actor. Unfortunately, we lost Sister Hutchins, who passed away. Local 44 confirmed that the props, set decoration, and special effects were staffed by New Mexico crew members, and they were not in our union, in other words, right? So the union is saying, well, it's not us. There was a live single round. I guess maybe they should have used union people. On behalf of Local 44s, we send good thoughts to everybody, to their families. So we sort of have a, conflict there. I think I'd go with the police and their analysis before we would ever consider the unions. In other words, how would they know that there was a live single round in there unless somebody told them that? So they're probably just jumping the gun a little bit. Too soon for that. Okay, but what if there was a little bit of nefarious activity going on in this whole story? What if it wasn't just an accident? What if somebody was mad, or there was ill motive, or there was some reason why somebody might want somebody dead, or somebody might want Alec Baldwin to look very bad, or maybe Alec Baldwin, who's sort of a known hothead, maybe he flew off the rails, or maybe he forgot to do something. Did they draw his blood? Did they see if he was under the influence of anything? Very curious. Anybody else's blood? Did they get warrants for any of that stuff? Very curious. I don't know. But there may have been a little bit of trouble on the set of Rust because the camera crew, according to the LA Times, walked off the set in protest right before the fatal shooting. They were set to walk off. They were protesting working conditions over there. Camera operators and their assistants, they were both frustrated by the conditions surrounding the low-budget film, including complaints of long hours and getting their paychecks, according to 3 people familiar with the matter who were not authorized to comment. Camera crews showed up for work as expected at 6:30 a.m., began gathering up their gear and personal belongings to leave, one knowledgeable crew member told the LA Times. So everybody shows up. They're unhappy about things. Prop guy does something. Prop gun gets moved around, changes hands a few times. They're going to leave. Somebody gets shot and killed. So you can see where the investigation then has to go from there. All right, well, let's take a look at the New Mexico statutes. Let's take a look and see if there's a potential homicide crime that might apply to this killing. Of course, this happened in New Mexico, so New Mexico law is going to apply. I'm not licensed to practice law in New Mexico. I just grabbed a couple of these statutes based off of a New Mexico website, but they resemble a lot of the other murder charges in different states. Let's take a look at some of them. And we're asking ourselves, is there anybody that these statutes might be applicable to? Could it be Alec Baldwin? Could it be the prop guy? Could it be anybody else? Let's take a look. Murder is the most obvious charge, right? Murder in the first degree. Now, it's the killing of one human being by another without lawful justification or excuse, by any of the following means. By any kind of willful, deliberate, or premeditated killing, right? No evidence of that. No evidence that Alec Baldwin was going to woke up and wanted to kill this person. How about number 2? In the commission or an attempt to commit any felony? I don't think so. He wasn't, robbing a bank. He wasn't trying to, sexually assault her or anything like that. As far as we know, no felony actions there. So that's a felony murder type of statute, not going to apply. By any act greatly dangerous to the lives of others. indicating a depraved mind regardless of human life. Well, that might be something like if he were firing the gun all over the place, right? If Alec Baldwin's out there going, bah, 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 shooting somebody and then shoot somebody. Greatly dangerous to the lives of others. A depraved mind, somebody who's just acting recklessly. Did that happen? Probably not. So I don't think any of these murder charges are going to stick here out of New Mexico. Let's see here. Unless he's acting with sufficient provocation. Yeah, all right, so we're going to skip over that. Murder in the second degree. Whoever commits murder in the second degree results in the death of... Okay, so the murder statute is pretty much, I think, out the window unless there's some other, more nefarious actions that somebody can identify. Now, if somebody is loading an active round in there, that might be something that you can make an argument for. All right, anyways. All right, so how about this one? Excusable homicide, 30-2-5. Homicide is excusable in the following instances: when committed by an accident or a misfortune in doing any lawful act, by lawful means, with usual and ordinary caution, without any unlawful intent. So this would be more like an accident, right? An accident, misfortune. Somebody's doing something lawfully. They're doing it by lawful means, and they're using the ordinary and usual caution. So if Alec Baldwin was doing that, right, exercising usual and ordinary caution, he was lawfully acting, lawful means without any unlawful intent, maybe something like that applies. Excusable homicide. Or this would be a defense to homicide. When committed by accident or misfortune in the heat of passion, I don't think that one applies, so we'll just skip over that. We have justifiable homicide by a citizen if this is necessary to defend his life, his family, his property, or defending against any unlawful action directed against himself, his wife, or his family. Probably not that one either for justifiable homicide. How about when committed into the lawful defense, reasonable ground to believe? Probably not that one. Or this person is attempting to apprehend a person for a felony, not that one either. So we're not there. Now, the last one that probably sticks out to most people, let's take a look at this one. How about manslaughter? Manslaughter. It is the unlawful killing of a human being without malice. Okay? Remember when we started this segment, we were talking about the two different components of a criminal case: mens rea, a person's mental state, and actus reus, the action. A person is thinking something like, I want to kill that person, and then you pull out a gun and shoot that person. You've got a mental state, I want to murder someone, and you actually did it. You took action to do it. So here now, we're talking about sort of without that malice, without that level of maliciousness, without that malice of forethought, which is why this is not murder. It's a lower level in manslaughter. So we've got two different kinds now. Somebody is dead. Voluntary manslaughter consists of manslaughter committed upon sudden quarrel or heat of passion, which we don't know if that happened or not, right? We have people who are walking off the set. A lot of the camera people, they're gone. So obviously there were some contention at the scene, but we don't know if this resulted in a shooting or something like that, right? So that might be a little bit premature. But how about this? How about involuntary manslaughter? So voluntary manslaughter would be like, we got into a fight and I punched somebody in the head and they're dead. Sudden quarrel, heat of passion, but didn't intend to kill that person. Now, involuntary manslaughter is manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act that's not amounting to a felony, which I'm not sure is appropriate here. Or, you see this big or, in the commission of a lawful act which might produce death in an unlawful manner, or, again, without due caution and circumspection. So let's break that down yet again. We can say that the commission of a lawful act would have been the acting that took place, right? It is Alec Baldwin shooting somebody fakely with a gun, but it was done without due caution or circumspection. So somebody died. It was a lawful thing to do, but it was done without due caution or circumspection. I think that might be the one that is most appropriate, depending on who they charge. 30-2-3, manslaughter. Seems like it fits. What do you have to say about this, Alec Baldwin? Take your questions over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Let's see what is here. Pulling these questions up. We've got, first one is from I'm not gas. He says, I really love Western movies. You could say they're to die for. That's from I'm Not Gas, holding for applause here is what he says. Good to see you. We have another one. Delaware is on the border. He just looks out 200 miles. Oh, that's a good point. I mean, that's right. I got to eat my shoe on that one. Biden does live on the border, doesn't he? I'm Not Gas says, so will I get out of manslaughter charge if I just say I'm really, really sorry and it was a mistake? It's the responsibility of whoever is holding the weapon to verify the condition it's in before pulling the trigger. It's pretty good standard there for the holder of the weapon to make sure that it's okay before you use it. Robute says, if this occurred in Arizona, would it be third-degree murder or second-degree manslaughter? Or would he get pardoned because he's a celebrity Democrat because he's part of the TDS club? Well, I'd have to take a look at those statutes again before I dove into, a deep analysis of it. But certainly he would be charged. Well, I mean, gosh, I don't know. I would think he would be charged here. But you're right. He's sort of on the right side of a lot of these issues. But look, you don't just get to kill somebody and just, sort of escape any liability for that. Geomancy Game says, as a gun owner, I'm always responsible for what's at the end of my barrel, regardless. The left constantly tells us that people should require classes and licensing before they purchase a firearm, and I'm assured that none of them have taken a single gun safety class. We are always taught to treat a gun as loaded, regardless of what we know. Why do these rules not apply to Hollywood? It's a very good point, Geomancy Games, and well put, right? That's sort of basic gun rules. Be Brave says, 2 thoughts. This is the kind of reason you never point a weapon at anything you don't intend to shoot and kill, which is, I think, the first rule of gun ownership. This includes not allowing kids to point toy guns. Are those still allowed at each other? Second point is, why is someone who is so opposed to guns using them in his production and his movie? Hypocrisy? Well, yeah, it's Hollywood. It's just what they do, right? They scream at you about your light bulbs and then hop on private planes to go to global warming conventions. We have Major says, I watched Guns and Gear on YouTube. He said it was live ammo, not a blank. He also said that the gun could have been Baldwin's personal weapon that was taken to a live fire range earlier that day, and proper safety staff wasn't hired to verify and handle the guns. Oh my goodness. Doesn't Alec have the attitude of nobody should have guns but the government? So why does he have one? Because he's special. And you're not. He's part of the elite. And we're not. We have Ashley Babbitt says, a young unarmed woman is killed by a member of the lunatic left. I know exactly how she feels. I send the love and vibe to her loved ones left behind. May her soul rest in peace. Hope this isn't the latest Dem trend for their new agenda. We have Geegum, pronounced G, like the letter gum, G. Long E, gum. Let's see if we can learn this on the fly. Pronounce G like the letter in gum. G. Geegum. Geegum. Long E. Geegum Geegum, I think is how. Is that right? Geegum Geegum? Like gum. Giga. Gum. Geegum. I don't know. I'm sorry. Geegum Geegum. Gun 101. All guns are always loaded. Never put a finger on the trigger until your target is in your sight. Never let the muzzle cross the path of anything you're not willing to destroy. And last but not least, know your target and what's behind it. If you follow these rules, it will be highly unlikely that any bad things will happen. It's a good rule. Good advice. Kincaid says, it is tragic to be sure, but however, an individual handling a potentially dangerous firearm should follow all safety precautions. I would say every individual holding a gun should check for themselves. Additionally, camera angles and such could help actors aim in safer directions. If the obligations security were micromanaged as it should be, I would say involuntary manslaughter. Anyone handling a gun should know for themselves how they work, whether they like them or not. Very good comment there from Kincaid. I think it's very reasonable what you're talking about. Be Brave says, I had no idea they used real guns on sets. Would there be a live round on this? Why would there be a live round on the set in the first place? It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know, right? I'm not an actor. I don't know why that would be. Maybe there's a reason for it, but I can't think of a good one. Screw Baldwin says, well, Baldwin is, why are you cooperating with the cops before you get a full immunity from the prosecutor? When dealing with the government, take Robert Barnes' advice, always in writing, never in cash. That's good advice. Yeah, good advice is to make sure he has a lawyer and have the lawyer do all the conversating there. Jeremy Matrita says, in my opinion, no matter what you are doing, you always check and clear a weapon first when one is handed to you. Baldwin is responsible for knowing if the weapon is loaded. However, this being Hollywood, I doubt anyone will get in criminal trouble. As tragic as it may be, this sounds like the plot to several police procedural shows I've watched. It all depends on who had access to the weapon and if someone was banging someone else's significant other and they wanted payback. Just saying. It's true. It is true. It's going to be a very interesting case to see how this one unfolds. It's like a law school exam. In criminal law, they'd be like, all right, look, you got a whole Hollywood set with 37 people and who did it? And you sort of game the whole thing out. Very interesting. We have another one from Kincaid says, might be a silly idea. However, advanced scales on set would be cheap and easily accessible check for actors to use right before shooting. Interesting. Former LEO says, the people injured were behind the camera, not in front, as they were not actors. Why was the gun used on non-actors? And were the cameras running? Two very good questions as well. Right, and I want to know if they drew his blood. They got a warrant for that. Chauvin is here, says, if the victim were black, would it still be an accident? How is Baldwin any different than what happened in my case? I did not intentionally kill Floyd. I didn't kneel on his neck that long. I was pressing on his back. I deserve another real trial. Yeah, right, because, think about it this way. There was also the woman, Kim Potter, remember, who shot that kid in Minneapolis, a police officer. She shot him accidentally. She's being charged with manslaughter. So why would Alec Baldwin not be charged? Monster One says, the sweet smell of another victim of the Trump curse. Feel bad for the family, not for Baldwin. Hope he gets what he deserves. A lot of people feel that way. Vientica says, the problem with the holder of the weapon in a general sense of movies is as what if someone's shooting a scene and part of the scene is them picking up a gun and firing? Leaves a bunch of opportunities for nefarious actions. If they want to go that route, then you'll have to jump cuts every time someone picks up a gun and when they fire it. It's from Vientica's Prime. I don't know how it would work, but it is curious. Peely Wally says, it's okay to blow up innocent families in Afghanistan with drone strikes and so on with no worries about being in trouble. So I send prayers to Baldwin. It's a sad story and a big error on his part, but no malice in it. I think it's probably accurate there, Peely Wally. Probably an accident, but probably something that should have been avoided. And accidents result in criminal charges all the time. Baldwin's daughter's answering machine, I knew it was the daughter, says, this is a bit strange. Did he randomly start shooting at a crowd even with a cold gun? Seems a bit odd. Would make sense if he shot a fellow actor during a scene, but not a cinematographer in the back. I understand that. Let's see. Monster One says the left isn't against guns. They're just against right-wingers having guns. They are fine with themselves having guns. Very nice distinction. Sergeant Bob says, all my retired cop friends support the second, and they're opposed to stupid gun control trash, which is just great. And that was on the Loudon Counties segment, but we got that one here. Major says the show is an old Western, so they don't need to block the barrel for the projectile on a revolver. You would just use blanks instead of live rounds. We got some good information coming in here today. That was from Major. Thank you, Major. Alex Baldwin says, it's obvious I can no longer be an actor in Hollywood anymore due to this incident. If you ever need security for your show, let me know, Rob. I'm obviously a good shot. Well, Alec Baldwin, I think I'll take care of it myself. Don't really trust your aim too much, but I appreciate it. Monster One says, it's my understanding that they were trying to get a head-on shot of him shoot, which is why he was pointing at the camera. Okay, well, maybe that's why. Yeah, I don't know. Vientica says, as I understand it, the scene was Baldwin shooting towards the camera. So there you go. Yeah, there you go. So you can see it. Well, not too good. Those were great questions and comments over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thanks for being a part of the show. All right, we've got one more segment left. And, it's Loudon County. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. All right, well, let's just get into it, shall we? Loudon County Public Schools still in hot water, and rightfully so. Seems like the superintendent, Dr. Ziegler, actually knew about all of the allegations that took place many months ago and lied about it to the entire public. We're going to get back into this story. You may remember this father, a guy named Scott Smith. He was dragged out of a school board meeting. You know, those same school board meetings that apparently are just filled with insurrectionists and domestic terrorists. You're looking at one of them. He was there because he was very upset that his daughter got raped by an alleged transgender student in the school and the school didn't do really anything about it. So he went to the public school meeting and screamed at them, saying, why aren't you taking action to protect my daughter and other students? Because the student who allegedly did the raping was still out and about and allegedly groped another student, is being prosecuted for that, in fact. So this father brought it up to the school board. School board had him arrested that day. You can see another image of that arrest taking place. He was charged with disorderly conduct for being disorderly and got hauled off to jail. Now, very interesting case, because if you recall, there was a concerning timeline here, because there was a rape allegedly that happened in May at the school, and then there was a school board meeting in June, just a month later, to have a conversation about new transgender policies and about whether these new transgender policies that include things like shared bathrooms and bathroom modifications, in addition to all the pronoun proficiency, issues that schools are dealing with now, that was being discussed in the school board meeting on June 22nd, the same meeting that the father, Scott Smith, went to talk at. And at that very meeting, Scott Ziegler, who is the superintendent of the schools, said, don't know anything about that. Then the following couple months later, on August, they approved that very same transgender policy. And so we've always had questions about the timeline here. Fox News gave us a breakdown of this, and they're telling us here with documentation that they can confirm, according to the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, that back on May 28th, there was a 2-month-long investigation. Started on May 28th. They were there. Sheriff's Department showed up. Father, daughter reported the rape. Sheriff's Department shows up. They don't do anything about it because it's still under investigation. But nothing happens. Then at a June 22nd board meeting, Ziegler shows up at the board meeting. Father is there. Ziegler, though, says, quote, the predator transgender student or person simply does not exist. And that, to my knowledge, Ziegler says, we don't have any record of assaults occurring in our restrooms. Oh, that's interesting. See that right there? Let's just give that a big fat red underline. We don't have any record of assaults occurring in our restrooms. Okay, that's on June 22nd. So then on August 11th, the school board comes back. They approve transgender policy 8040. Teachers now are using preferred pronouns, and bathroom renovations are taking place so that they can share bathrooms. Then the same student who allegedly assaulted the daughter assaults another person at another school. 15-year-old boy then was charged with sexual battery and abduction of a fellow student at another school. Turns out it's the same student, right? And so now you start looking at the school board and you're saying, wow, man, they kind of got their hands full. Following this timeline, May 28th, investigation, Ziegler, superintendent, don't know anything about it, passed the transgender policy because we don't know anything about it. Then on October 6th, it happens again. So then Ziegler comes out, and on October 15th, just a week ago, he comes out and he says, we screwed up. We really mishandled that situation. And we just feel really bad about it. He says that we failed to provide safe environments. Yeah, it's true. He came out, Dr. Scott Ziegler. Parents were obviously outraged about this, how this school handled it. So he came out and he said, we complied with, Title IX and how schools must investigate this stuff. But, I'm sorry, it wasn't enough. First, let me say to the families and the students involved, my heart aches for you. I'm sorry we failed to provide safe, welcoming, affirming environments that we aspire to provide. We acknowledge and share your pain. We continue to offer support to help you and your families through this trauma, blah, blah, blah. All of our teams are available to help you if you need it. So this guy comes out and just, vomits out a bunch of garbage platitudes. Here is some more of that.
Loudoun County Public Schools will move forward as a learning community that emphasizes safety and affirmation in an academically rigorous environment. We will offer transparency where we are able, but also ask the community to appreciate that we must maintain student confidentiality. Because of this, there will be questions that we simply cannot answer at this time. Again, student confidentiality is a principle and legal obligation to which we must adhere.
Okay, confidentiality, we're going to follow the rules, all that stuff. But if you recall, he said that they had no idea about any of this in the first place. So he's outside of the bubble of liability, except he's a liar. So we now know that this came out today on October 21st, that an email from the Loudoun County superintendent alerted the school board on the day of the bathroom assault. Interesting. So it says here that this guy that you just heard from, Scott Ziegler, the superintendent of the Loudoun County Public Schools, he sent a brief confidential email to school board members back on May 28th. See this? Same day that the student at the Stonebridge High School was sexually assaulted in the bathroom. He knew about it, sent an email about it, provided few details. The school board is notified of major incidents, but they're rarely given specifics or told who was involved because it could impact the student's disciplinary actions. So Scott Ziegler sent this email. He says, you can see right up here, from Scott Ziegler to the school board confidential, copied 1, 2, 3, 4 people talking about a confidential school incident. And all this stuff is public record, right? It's all in most of these places. It's open meeting laws. So it says, the purpose of this email is to provide you with information about an incident. Afternoon, a female student alleged that a male student sexually assaulted her in the restroom. Turns out he did. They did a rape kit. The whole thing's true. LCSO is investigating the matter. It's going to be Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. Secondary to the assault investigation, the female student's parents responded to the school and they caused a disruption by using threatening and profane language that was overheard by staff and students. So, okay. Additional law enforcement officers responded to the school to assist with the parent. So, father's daughter gets raped. Father gets upset about it. They call the cops on the father. Great. School's counseling team is providing services for the students who witnessed the parents' behavior. Alleged victim is being tended to by LCSO. This guy is a piece of work. So, he's something. LCSO is investigating both incidents. Further updates may not be available. Scott Ziegler, ED, Interim Superintendent of Schools, Loudoun County Public Schools. So most of this is about getting counseling for the students who witnessed the parents' behavior. And the alleged victim is being tended to by LCSO. So most of this letter is actually about the father who's upset. Not about the rape, really. Okay, all this section here is all about the father. From Scott Ziegler. So he says, student, let's see, is there indication that this happened in a bathroom? Yes, in a restroom. Female student says that a male student sexually assaulted her. He's using genders, which is, I think, offensive and racist, but okay. So we know that he knew about this on May 28th because he sent a letter back to them about that. Last week, he came out. We heard him apologize. The person, the underage person who is behind these allegations or behind these assaults, we know it was involved in another one. It says here, Loudoun County Commonwealth's attorney, Buddha Biberaj, told WTOP that the same 15-year-old has been charged in both crimes. The boy was on pretrial electronic monitoring for the May 28th sexual assault, and when he was charged with sexual battery and abduction for the October incident. So he was already on an ankle monitor, it sounds like, when he committed the second assault. 15-year-old from Ashburn, not being identified because of his age. Since then, family now, Scott Smith and the daughter, say that they are going to be filing a civil lawsuit against the school system. You can see that attorney Bill Stanley of the Stanley Group said today, posted this back on October 15th, says, today the superintendent Ziegler said what we already knew. Actions of this school failed to provide a safe environment. They've been failing parents for years now. Ziegler's continued insistence that somehow the schools of the administration are not at fault for their conduct. Strange credulity. Completely unacceptable and outrageous to blame the federal government Title IX protocols on the treatment of Smith's daughter and the subsequent sexual assault of another student. Demonstrates the cluelessness that explains Loudoun County's notoriety. Yeah. Now, more information came out, right? This story was sort of breaking today because Ziegler came out, and on June 22nd, we already heard that quote from him that Fox News reported previously, where he said, we have no record of any sexual assaults taking place in our bathroom, even though he sent a letter saying there were allegations of sexual assault taking place in our bathrooms a month earlier. So the Virginia Star sent an email over to them today and said, hey, you guys want to clarify what's going on over there? They said Calvin Parson Jr., he's a member of the media relations team. He told Virginia Star, he said, at this time, the superintendent has indicated he's not going to be resigning. Yeah. During that meeting, Ziegler said that back on June 22nd, he said the predator transgender student or the person simply does not exist. We don't have any record of assaults in our restrooms. Yeah. And then when they asked him about this again, addressing the latter half of his comments, he said, where do I have this? Oh, here it is. Ziegler said he misinterpreted the question that was asked by a school board member. Yeah, when he said that he didn't have any records, he just misinterpreted the question. Can you believe this garbage? That's what he said about it. Loudoun County Public Schools released this statement. They released the email. They said, during the past week, we've got a number of questions about all this. In this case, the superintendent sent an email message. A copy of that message is attached. In the message, board members were informed in a general fashion of an alleged incident that took place. Loudoun County Sheriff's Office was conducting an investigation, so the school board was not provided any specifics and were advised by Ziegler that they would not receive updates regarding this matter, which is what he said, right? He said here, updates may not be available. Didn't say that they would not be available, like would not. He said they may not be available. Nobody asked about it. Let's see. Would not received, is being investigated, not provided any information. All right, so that's it, right? That's it. So the school board just says, not our fault. Loudoun County Sheriff's Office was taking care of it. Ziegler just says, oh, I misunderstood the question. No idea what you're talking about. You were talking about, sexual assaults. I thought you were talking about allegations of sexual assaults. In my mind, those are two different things. So the guy's just a flat out liar. I think it's pretty obvious at this point in time. And, the question is anybody going to do anything about it over there in Loudoun County? It's outrageous that people in positions like this are just sweeping this crap under the rug. It's insane. But, I guess that's the state of our public schools now. Maybe the Biden administration will give him a grant. Let's see what you have to say about this over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. There are a couple questions on this one. Soul Viking says, so the bottom line is that they are not done with the so-called affirming environment. What? No, they're not. Right? Inclusiveness and equity and all this garbage, even if it comes at the expense of the safety of your daughter. Thunder 7 says, I'm glad that they are being exposed for the liars and lunatics they are. The country is totally behind the father, and all the parents are on alert and fighting back against these corrupt school boards. They are going to be replaced, and many have already resigned. Wokeness is dying. Mom and the Papa Bears won't stop until the woke agenda is totally destroyed. Patriots rising up. That's from Thunder 7. Good comment. I hope so. It's children that are being sort of considered expendable in the wake of this political wave that's taking place. Look 2G says, it feels like one of our biggest issues in the U.S. is that we don't hold people accountable for bad behavior, like Ziegler lying. Who would have standing, and is there any indictment that could be leveled against individuals that behave this way? Yeah, that's Look 2G. I mean, look, I don't practice law in Virginia or in Loudoun County at all, but I would certainly suspect that there are all sorts of public corruption statutes or failure to report or anything that would essentially be manipulation of public data, in other words, right? This guy has an affirmative duty to go out there and be honest with his constituency. He's not doing that. I didn't understand the question. Give me a break. He's lying is what it is. So yes, he would be investigated if we had a real country. We don't. I'm Not Gas says, Loudoun County schools, if a girl gets literally raped in every way possible, quote, that alleged crime could be bad, but her dad used profane language, and that is completely unacceptable. It's so unacceptable that they have to get the students who witnessed it therapy because it's so traumatic. Yeah. Be Brave says, do you think that there is an elite cult of satanic pedophiles? Savannah Guthrie. Me? Yes, I do. And Ziegler is a member. Yeah. I mean, yeah. How else do you explain that? He's like, the alleged victim, the 14-year-old girl, liar, who claims she got raped in the bathroom. Her lunatic, psycho, Trump-supporting father is here. Call the cops. Did she get raped, though? Probably not. Should I send a message to the board? Yeah, maybe. I'll just send a quick memo. There's a rape that just happened in our school. Major says, I hope the school staff and the school board get charged with accessory to rape, if that is a thing. They could get the crimes that I'm thinking of are sort of the vulnerable. There are all sorts of different statutes for vulnerable adults and for children, vulnerable children. And so if you're in a position like this and you've got an affirmative duty to go make sure that, this doesn't happen again, and you sort of don't adhere to that duty, that's a problem. Kincaid says, it seems someone will ignore biological differences. That is to say, boys, men, regardless of modification, still have specific behavior and risks. An isolated incident, possible, sure. However, that does not address increased rates of various bad situations. If parents show up in mass, they should be allowed to direct votes on such matters, regardless of the board members' opinions. Bathrooms should have a canvas public area, sinks, etc., and enclosed stalls. Someone on the board effing knew, and it is not their right to dismiss any concern related to the topic. And it's not just that they're dismissing it, right? They're just denying it even is a concern, which is part of the problem, right? If the school board came out and said, listen, parents, look, yes, there was a sexual assault that happened here. Yes, there was a rape, but it's all under control. We've got it figured out. Sheriff's office is investigating it, but we still have some business to attend to, and we have to vote on this transgender bill. You're being open. You're being transparent about it. You're communicating in good faith. People asked about it. What about the sexual assault? And he lied about it. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no record of this mythical transgender person that you're trying to make up. So stop talking about it, right? He's actively concealing something that he knows happened, and he communicated about it in an email. So that is, it's more than just oversight, right? It's lying. It's actual lying, in my opinion. I'm Not Gas says, who cares if a bunch of children are forcibly sodomized? It's a small price to pay to affirm the 0.00001% of the population. Sarcasm, obviously, right? That's from I'm Not Gas. That's a scary clip to read. Because it's probably going to be clipped at some point in my lifetime. F Affirmation dropped a comment. We have another one from BLM. Skip that one. We've got Sweet Potato says, if you had kids, would you homeschool them? This story, yes, I would. Yes, I would absolutely, I think, do that, which is a good part of the reason why I don't have kids is because I'm not kind of set up for that life yet. This story sickens me, especially because real dads would do anything for you, so she probably didn't want to tell him, so he wouldn't go to jail for murder. It's horrific. When you going to come game with us and lighten the mood? We're waiting over on Twitch. It's probably going to happen this weekend because I got a new device that I need to play around with, which is not something. It's an electronic gaming device. It's not anything else perverted out there. Ugh. All right, next question is, even if he isn't lying, he didn't understand the question. He's too dumb for the job. All right. Let's see what else. I got a few more questions. Jeremy Matrita says, there is no excuse for what happened. Aren't teachers considered mandatory reporters? I thought I recently read someone resigned from the school district. Have you seen anything about that? Yeah, I did see somebody did resign. It was somebody who was, I think, higher up resigned, which is good. Like, the whole board should resign, and Ziegler is just a liar. Monster One says, you have to remember that these people think that the misgendering or hurting the feelings of a member of the alphabet community is worse than rape. They actually think that if you misgender someone, you should be killed in self-defense. I've seen some of those quotes. I've seen some people saying stuff like that. It's nuts. Vientika says, all these people to get protected and the average guy gets screwed. Makes me think of the Sophie Long case. Don't know if I remember that one, Vientikas. I'm digging, but I don't have anything coming. Kincaid says they should have halted the issue until it was publicly resolved. Yeah, if you're talking about new transgender policies and you have a case that involves a transgender student and a sexual assault of a non-transgender student, it's not good. Let's see who else is here. Hunter Biden says, I hope Ziegler resigns so I can have his job. Home sweet home. By the way, where's the girls' locker room, Rob? I forgot since the last time we spoke. I don't know, Hunter. Don't ask me. Major says, I thought I had a hard time in school when I wasn't allowed to go on senior trip because of the terrorists on 9/11. Now they won't let kids go to school at all. And when they do, they get raped and have to choose genders. It's a weird time to be a child in America. Former LEO says, what percentage of the population fits the guidelines that they are all of the alphabets? Being identified on such, the public should be informed. How do citizens throw them out of office? The school board, well, I think you just got to go and vote in those elections unless the Garland DOJ comes and arrests you. Thunder 7 says, Rob, it's off topic, but you're stuck at 120,000 subscribers for a month now. Tell me about it, Thunder 7. I know. That's why I'm making the changes on the channel, brother, because it's we're getting throttled big time. Are the techie gods playing with you? By the way, the father was really restrained. My dads would have resorted to violence in a rage of over the rape of their daughter. Kudos to the dad for standing up and only swearing and cussing at the criminals in the school board from Thunder 7. Yeah, right. Tremendously reserved on that, to his credit. And, he got fed up with it. He was waiting around. Nothing was being done. He went to the school board, brought it up, and they arrested him for it. So that's just how things go. Yeah, the subscribers, it's weird. The R&R live channel, the Robert Gruller live channel, just totally stuck. But the clips, the segment channel is doing quite well. So, we're just playing around with the algos, I guess. We'll see where this continues to go. Geegum says, can the superintendents be impeached? If so, let's get out the articles of impeachment. Another impeachment party. We had a very, very long-running impeachment party when we were impeaching everybody, Kamala Harris and the rest of them. But it is... I don't know how it works locally in that school board. I'm sure they have some sort of removal process. Don't know if it is impeachment, but probably something. We have Soul Viking says, if the boy in the skirt was transgendered, why do they keep referring to the rapist as a boy? It's a good question. I don't know. It's really complicated, all the pronouns and the letters. It's very confusing. So I don't know. And our last question is from Jay Heath. Says, thanks for all you do, Rob. Have a most excellent weekend. What a nice comment. What a nice way to end the show. And let's see. I think we had, one more from the grouchy old cat lady. That's right. This one was early on the show. Says he was dressed as a woman. New transgender bathroom laws provide opportunities for crimes against women. Another story from Rentham, Massachusetts says a Woodsocket man facing CP charges after police say he took photos of girls at a restroom. He arrested a second time after they executed a search warrant on his phone and vehicle. Yeah, look, there's some definitely problematic things happening. But the school, right, they're going to be rolling out new transgender policies while they have an open transgender issue that happened in a bathroom. It's like you can't go get a new loan until you've paid off your old debt. You have something open. Close that first, and then we'll take a look at doing business with you again. But not in this school, apparently. All right, and I think that's it for the questions on the show for the day. A couple more came in. Former LEO says, when my girls went to the bathroom, I waited outside, told them to yell, and I would fix it. It's a pretty good solution. And that was it for the questions on the show. Amazing questions over from all of our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And we want to welcome some amazing new people who did join our community. We've got a few welcomes. We have to say shout outs to Damn Girl, who just joined in on the community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We got Michael N in the house. We've got Bill Givens. Welcome, Givens. We've got our guy, too. We've got So Flow Red. Welcome to the community. Maxim 15, Sir Darren, Firedat 58, V-Dubs Hanny is in the house. And then last week we had Max922 Tsunami Tommy in the house. Sugar Britches, Ad Meliora. We had Pretty Darn Nice, Sovereign Lion, Lynn Fish, Germ, Sniper 275, all over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is our amazing community. I really appreciate everybody signing up and joining our group over there. We have an amazing meetup coming up on Saturday, November 6th, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope you can join us. That's coming up soon. Can you believe it's November already? Where is the year going? We're going to have, hopefully turkeys, if we can get the trucks to deliver them. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. I want to thank everybody for being a part of the show this week. I know there were some changes on the show, and we're probably going to still keep making some tweaks here and there, but I am grateful for your patience, your understanding. We're trying to grow the channel and do the right thing to sort of, reach more people and gather more eyeballs so we can continue this very important conversation. And I appreciate all your help and understanding in that journey as we continue to try to reach our goals. And so that's it for us for the week. We will be around back here on Monday at the same time for the recording, which is at 4 p.m. Arizona time, 7 p.m. Eastern here on Locals. The premieres on YouTube at 7 p.m. Arizona time, 10 p.m. Eastern, which is a little bit later than usual, but that's when it's live now. And so I hope you will join us next week on Monday when we get back here and do it all again. 4 p.m. Arizona, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. on the East Coast for that one Florida man. Everybody else, have a tremendous weekend. Unplug from politics a little bit. Spend some time with family and loved ones and rest up because we got to be back here to do it all again on Monday. I'll see you then. Be well, my friends. Bye-bye.